In the previous part, we've coded a leveling and experience system. Now we're going to connect it with some bits of interface. In the project, you want to go to the player GUI folder, and I've prepared an experience bar for us. The scene itself is fairly simple. We have a progress bar node that represents our experience bar. Then we have some bit of text as a picture and a tween node. If you want to see how to create a bar that fills up like that, we have a tutorial for that on how to create a live bar for your character. So here we can focus on the code. Click the script next to experience bar to open it. And I've prepared a few methods that we're going to use. First, there's initialize, same thing as in the live bar tutorial. So we initialize the min and max values on the range parts of the experience bar. It's one of the classes it extends. And then we're going to react to the character gaining experience. We're going to have some data we'll need to pass about the character's growth. Also, we're going to animate the value on the live bar. We'll see that in a second, but first we need that signal on character experience gained. We don't have it. So we have to go back to our character script, and to open it you can press Ctrl-Alt-O and type for character to find character.gd. Okay, so let me expand the script editor so we have a little more space, and we'll add a signal to start with. We're going to pass that experience gain info through a signal with the same name, so experience gained, and we're going to pass some data. Now this growth data is going to be an array of the growth the character had on every level. So there are a few ways we can go about animating that gained experience. One is in texture progress to call the character's get required experience for each level that the character passed, and to make some calculation with the experience that was gained at that given point. So the amount, that was gained. And from that, recalculate how many times the bar should fill up. Instead, we're going to create that data here on the character and send it, like emit it from the character, so all the experience-related calculations stay inside that class. In our gain experience function, we're going to create a growth data variable, and it's going to be an array. For each level gained, or each level in which there was experience gain, we're going to add one line in there. So here's how we can do it. Before the character levels up, we're going to append to the growth data two values. We want to append the experience required for that level. So that will be the maximum of the bar. And we're going to pass the experience required a second time. The first value is going to be the target value we'll animate to, and the second will be the maximum value we'll animate to. So we're going to fill the entire bar here. And after the end of the loop, we want to add one last line to the growth data. And in case the character did not gain a level, this time we're going to append the experience and the experience required for the next level. Because in level up, we update it, we don't have to make that calculation again here. We can just use the experience required variable. And finally, we emit our signal and pass the data. So it's experience gained. It doesn't give it to me, so I'm going to copy it at the top of the script. I didn't get auto-completion. And pass our growth data. All right, so now we need to make some connections. Press F11 to go back to the full editor. I'm going to press F1 to go to the 2D editor. Go back to the game scene. And we need to drag our experience bar into the interface. And I'm going to center it using the layout menu and the center option. All right, so it's more or less centered on the screen. I'm going to move it down a little bit because the label is going to take some space, so to balance out the screen. And from there, I'm going to connect the character's experience gain signal in the Node tab. Connect it to the experience bar, and it's going to create a new onCharacterExperienceGain method with the make function on. All right, with that, I had already created the method for us, but that's how you would create it from scratch. And now we have our growth data. So now we're going to loop over that growth data, and we're going to use something called coroutines and the yield keyword to fire the animation using the animate value method and wait for the tween to finish until we read the next line in growth data. For every line in our growth data, each line represents the character gaining 1 level. We're going to unpack the values. So we want the target experience. It's going to be line 0. So this is the percentage of the bar we're going to fill up. And then we want to store the maximum experience, and it's the second value in our line. Now we want to make sure that we set the bar's max value in the range category to the maximum experience here. So max value is going to be equal to max experience. And this is how you make it so the bar animates properly, like to scale with the character's level and required experience for the next level. This is where our yield keyword comes in. So yield is something common in procedural programming languages. It allows you to fire some process, stop the function here. When you reach the yield keyword, on character experience gain will stop. Everything we will add after it will not read, and it will stop the loop and everything until some condition is fulfilled. So we're going to wait until our animate value method, and we're going to pass in our target value, so that's going to be target experience, is completed. Completed is a special keyword. It's going to kind of wait for this function to complete, to return a value or to reach the end of the function, okay? Now in animate value, we're going to animate our value on the bar. So for that, we will use the experience bar's tween node. I'm going to open the experience bar scene so I can get auto-completion for the tween node and call interpolate property on it. We want to interpolate a property on this node. The property is called value. I'm going to write it this way. Expand the script editor again. We want to animate from the current value to the target value. So this is the first argument of the method. For a duration of tween duration, this is the second argument of the function that is set to 1 second by default. And then we're going to use any transition. You can use sign if you want and ease out to make the animation accelerate a little bit or give it some variety. All right, so with the animation initialized, then we want to start it. So for that, you call the start method on the tween node. And here we are going to yield again. And this time we're going to yield on the tween node. We're going to wait for the tween node to complete its tween. So note when I pass a node to the yield function, how I get a list of signals from that node. And so yield is going to stop that function until the node that we give emits that signal. So tween, every time an animation completes, so this animation here, it's going to emit tween completed. And when it does so, this function will return, and so we will land here in our on-character experience gain. There is one last thing we need to do. When we end the animation, if the character gained a full level, there's going to be multiple lines in growth data, and the bar will be full at this point when we'll reach line 14. So when we do so, we want to reset the value to 0. Let's say if max value is equal to value, or value is equal to max value, you want to set value back to 0, okay? To cycle back, or we set it back to minimum value if you want to use really the full object, the full properties of the progress bar. Now, one issue with that is our value animated by the tween is going to be a floating point value. So it may not be exactly equal to max value. So one way to compare if the two are really close is to do this. We're going to take the difference of the two and the absolute value of that difference. And if it's very small, lower than 0.01, we consider that they are equal, in which case we reset the value to minimum value. And we bounce back to the next line in growth data. We fire the animation and we do that until max value and value are different enough so that we know that the bar is half full or a quarter full, something like that. Our bar will already more or less work at this point. We just have to initialize it. We haven't done it yet. You can see it starts half full, but if you press space, you will get some animation. So the first time it will be a little buggy, and then from the second time it will work. This is because our bar was not properly initialized. Initialize is a method you're going to call from outside the energy bar or texture progress scene. So we want to go back to our game and to the corresponding script. And in the ready function, we're going to access the bar here. So make sure you place the experience bar under the interface node in the scene and not somewhere else, because the variable stores a reference to that, or you can change that path if you place the experience bar somewhere else. Let's call bar.initialize. We want to pass the character's experience and the character's required experience. This will initialize our bar. And note that if you used a minimum value that's greater than 0, which I'm not doing here, although I'm going to change that line back, but if you were to use that, you would want to also have some minimum value in your initialize method. Like if the minimum experience for some absolutely crazy reason was 10 or something, just make sure that you do that. And with that, your bar will start showing the character's experience. When you press space for the first time, because you are adding a lot of experience, the bar will fill 2 times and the character will gain more than 1 level at once. Press space again. So every time we press space, like in this demo, I think I'm adding 34 points of experience. You can see at first, it makes the character gain levels pretty quickly. But past level 5, I need to press the spacebar multiple times for the character to gain more experience. Note that this system at the moment has some limitations. If I press the spacebar many times, the bar will sometimes go back. The animation will be a bit buggy because we're not stopping and reinitializing the animation or piling up that growth data if we gain experience many times in a short amount of time. We have to wait for the animation to finish. So if you're making a turn-based RPG, it's no problem at all. That's how it should work. But if you make a game where the character can gain experience many times in a short amount of time, you don't want to wait for the animation to finish. You'll have to modify the system a little bit to accommodate for that. So this tutorial was brought to you by our patrons on Patreon. On top of that, if you want to support us, you can go check us out there, and you can also check our Master UI series to get your UI skills to the next level with Godot, or our general Godot 3 course. That's a great way to support GD Quest. Be sure to subscribe for more. And that said, be creative, have fun, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye. Have a nice day.